Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, welcome. I'm Jeff. I hope you are all thriving. Today I'm doing a studio vlog and it's all about my giant cardboard flowers, which are just there behind me, and talking you through a bit about the process, about making them. I've been working away on the concept for them for the last few months in between client jobs and taking some time off to sort of chill and unwind before the Christmas season starts. But I also knew that I wanted to have them done in time for Christmas anyway, so yeah, it's been like a bit of a slow process, but I'm finally at a spot where I'm really happy with them. So in the video, I'm going to be mainly just talking you through the entire process of how I was like prototyping them, the original concepts, the different stages of developing the design, and then how I'm going to hopefully, if all goes to plan, incorporate them into things that I sell on my online shop, and sort of where I can take this idea moving forward, which should be really great. Hopefully you'll find something out of this that could maybe help your own practice. Maybe you just want to sit and have me make in the background whilst you're cooking dinner. I will put the time codes in the description below, so if you want to jump through to any part of the video you can, but otherwise I'm just going to get started. So back in 2002, oh my god, I nearly said 2022. Oh my god, it is 2022. Oh my. So back in 2022, why does that sound so weird? Anyway, I think I'm glitching. So in 2022, I worked on a project for a client where I did an installation in 2 shopping centres, and I made these giant cardboard flowers that were installed. We were making like this big garden space, essentially. It was probably, it definitely was the biggest project that I had done to date, and I really loved what I created. The flowers were really sculptural, they were really playful, and ever since then I've had people say, one, would I sell them or be making more? And then 2, I also just knew that I wanted to keep them in my practice in some way, but I just didn't know how I was going to do it. So it's taken a little bit for me to sort of get my head around the idea of how to keep bringing them back into my project. And I got to a point where after I bumped it all out, I had to rehome the flowers that existed, and I kept 3 of them for myself, and I ended up just putting D hooks on the back of them and hanging them on my wall in my apartment, and I love them as like this cluster. It just looks really nice, and I decided that's how I could take this original idea of a client project and a 3-dimensional sculpture and turn it into something that I could essentially sell to customers, or I could pitch for other projects, or just like have as decoration in general. So that's where the concept all came from. So once I had decided on what the end result was going to be, I sat down and gave myself a brief, because I love a brief, and it really helps me to stay on track and make sure that I don't go off too far. I always just need a bit of a framework. So this is what I told myself before I started designing the flower. So I wanted to ask myself who the buyer was, and I knew that I wanted them to be people who would eventually want to hang them on their wall in their houses in a more of an eclectic setting, people who go to markets and buy little pieces, you know, doing more of like a home styling job. I really wanted to keep it in that kind of world, you know, people just in general who like handmade art and wanted to have those standout one-off pieces that were conversation starters as well. The next thing is price, and they're going to be at the top end of my price range when it comes to all my products. I don't want to be churning through and making a bunch of them. I'm aiming to hopefully, maybe make 10 and sell 10 over the next 12 months. So yeah, I just have to sit down and work out how much it costs me to make them, and don't budge on that price, and they're just not going to be a cheap thing. The next thing was size. I wanted them to be sort of the small to medium size. I don't want them to be as large as the original design, because they need to fit on a wall in an everyday house. So, in comparison to maybe like an A3 print or something that's collaged in, if it's going to be sat or put onto a wall with all different artworks, it needs to sort of be within proportion to all of those. So yeah, maybe like, the 50, 60 centimeters or so. For the design, I wanted to keep it flat and clean and crisp and rely mainly on templates. So I was going to lose the bulbous little bud in the middle, and that was it for the brief. Those points are more than enough of a framework for me to get started. And from there, it was time to play around with designing it. So to start, I always like to use thick stock card. It makes it really easy and quick for me to trace up the different pieces of the flower. And also, if I make a mistake, it just means that I can stick things back together with tape and sort of trim things, and it just makes sure that I'm more playful in what I'm doing. I started by using the original flower template as a starting point to settle on this new size. I then decided to cut the design down into 2 rings of petals rather than 3, and adding the bud in the center, keeping it really flat like I said in the brief. I then started playing with the layering and working out how I was going to create the depth between each layer. This really helps it to come to life and also elevate the design even more. At this point of the design, I was at 7 layers that went into making it. And I also made sure to put a center point in each of the layers, so I knew I was going to be able to skewer it through the middle and make sure everything was centered and not too lopsided. I also like to number every layer. That makes it really simple for me to realize what order things go in, because some of the pieces are just circles, so I kind of forget. Next, I started to make the first mock-up, and I had to choose the most suitable cardboard for each layer. That's really important, whether it's like single corrugated or double corrugated cardboard, and also the angles of the way the corrugations are going can help make it more structurally sound. And I also wanted to make sure that the petals looked organic and curved as well, so I had to play around with how I was going to bend them and shape them. Once I was happy with that, I then decided to go out on a limb and start painting this mock-up. I wasn't going to originally do this because I wasn't sure if once I stuck it together it was going to be fine, but I was just in flow and I was having a good time, so I just decided to make it. So this is the first flower that I made. I was pretty happy with it, but I knew there were some tweaks that I wanted to make. So starting with the back, really simple D-hook hanging, but I just put one of my stickers on there, which is fine. I use these stickers for my vases, but I just think that I could paint on my signature and it would just look a little bit more high-end and luxe, I guess. The petal sizes are good, but I just don't like how much they overlap. I think I could bring the outside layer out a little bit more. They just overlap just a little bit too much. The color of the petals, I wasn't entirely sold on the color combo, so it's like 3 shades of the one purple, but I just don't like the organization of them. It just feels a little bit just not right. The bud in the middle, I really like the layering of it, but I thought it definitely needed an extra bit of detail on this outer rim. It just felt a little bit minimal, and I just need that little bit of extra hit. But yeah, all in all, it was a good first one. I wouldn't say this was a failure. I'm glad that I painted it. But then yeah, next I had to go on and make my second one. So here's the first one, and now the second one. I'm really happy with how this second one came out. In comparison, they're like similar size, so I didn't quite get getting the petals out to a further, like to a wider setting. That didn't happen as well. I have a little bit less overlap, but it still feels a little bit too closed in. The back, I have now got my logo painted on the back, so I think that's a better way of doing it for sure. And I've also added in this extra wave detail, which I think is perfect. And I also added some more detail on this inner little petal, ring of petals as well, which I also think is great. But there's still some things I wanted to fix up. I wanted to play with adding an extra bit of the pale yellow into this ring. And I also really wanted to nail having the petals go a little bit further out and a little bit more opened up as well, so it didn't sit as curled in. So I went off and I made number 3. So just a reminder, we've got our second one and now our third one. I love the third one. So as you can see, the third one is so much more wider. It's a bit bigger, but I'm okay with that. The flowers are so much more open up. The petals are more visible. I'm just really happy with how it sits. Great. The back, so I added an extra ring of cardboard for the flowers to sit on, so this one just wasn't big enough really. So that makes sense as to why I can pull it out further and have a wider diameter. Still kept signature. On the bud, added the extra pastel little wave, which chef's kiss. And I condensed the colors down to just being 2 colors and just alternating between them, which I think is the best solution. 3 colors was just too many. So yeah, really happy with how this one turned out. And now I'm just going to, I don't know, I guess I'm gonna try and make maybe another 2 of them so I can take some photos and work out how I'm going to put them out to people, as in like whether I'm selling them at an upcoming market or put them on my online store, or yeah, just in general. Now I don't know what that's going to look like completely yet, so I'll share that with you next. Hello, I'm back, and since the last video it has been, I think, probably a week and a half or 2 weeks since the last part of the video. As you can see, I have made 2 more flowers and I'm really happy with them. I'm so thankful that they turned out the way they did and that like all 3 of them look the same. I was pretty anxious that I wasn't going to be able to reproduce it. Even though I'm using templates, the gluing down process is still a little bit rogue and I haven't quite nailed it yet. So that's something I'm going to work on in the future. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how they all look, and that there's uniformity across them, and like the quality is all the same. So yeah, I'm really happy with how they've turned out, which leads into the final part, which is sort of like the business side of everything. So I knew that I had to be able to sell them on my shop, and I've definitely decided. I went back yesterday and the day before and just mind mapped the whole process of them as a product. So I'm going to be putting them on my online shop and selling them individually, and they're going to be in small batches. So I'm just going to make a few, have them sitting there. Once they sell, then that's it. If I want to make more, I will. That way I can evolve the design if I want to, change the color palettes, rework the sizes. It just keeps it a lot more fluid in my process, and I don't feel as tied to this idea of like having to have this product all the time for sale for everyone, because I can't always make it and I might be busy on a client project. So that's why I've decided I'm going to do that. Yesterday I also went through the pricing, which is always the scary part. So the two things that I really go for is I write down a list of all the materials and what they cost for me to get, and then I write down the entire process. I write down an approximate how long it takes me to do that task, and then I have to allocate almost like a wage of how much I would have to pay myself to do that, and then I tally it all up, and that usually comes to a figure, and then I add the materials cost to that, and then I kind of see where it's sitting, and I'm pretty happy with where my final retail price has landed. It's definitely in the higher end, which is what I always thought it would be, and it just is what it is. I definitely went through a few moments of I should lower it, no one's going to buy it, but you just have to tell yourself that like it's fine if no one buys this, or if you only sell a few of them, because this is how long it takes you to make this is how much it costs you to make this thing. This is a piece of art, and for me, a lot of my speed humps come from the idea that I'm using cardboard. And if I compare my work to someone who does traditional paintings, and I look at the price of what people sell art for, I go in my head, yep, that's totally cool, that makes sense. But as soon as I look at my own, sometimes I can go to myself, well, why does it cost that much? And I think like the people who have in my past said to me, well, why does it cost that much? It's only cardboard. And it's like, it's the artistry that goes into it. It's the time, it's the labor that I've put into it. It's the 15 plus years that I've been playing with cardboard and exploring my techniques and my skills. And so, yeah, it's always interesting when I bring something new into my process when I'm pricing it, because generally I am pretty firm and confident when talking money, and I'm pretty proud that I am able to flag those moments where I am second guessing my value and be able to change my mind back and realize and sort of shock myself into going, no, Jeff, this is not the way to think. You are worth this money. This artwork is worth this. And if people don't want to buy it, they don't want to buy it, and that's fine. And the people who do buy it, I love them more. So yeah, so I settled on the price, which was great. The next part is naming, which is always my worst trait. No, my worst skill. I'm terrible at naming things. I'm not settled on a name yet, but I've got a few options. I might ask a few friends for their input, and I think by the time you see this video, though, they may be up on my website, they may not. It just depends when I get this video out. But yeah, working out the name of it, writing down all the details I need for my website, so I've just documented it there, ready to go. So the weight, the size of it, the material listing, a description of it. I'm planning to next week take some photos of the flowers on the wall in like my house, and just doing more like mock-ups of what they look like in a more styled environment. So hopefully by the time again you see this, I'll be able to put some photos up here of cute photos that I took of them. Writing down some really good FAQs for my products, which I like to now put with everything. So writing down a list of questions that people might ask and making sure that information is there. So it's just eliminating any barriers for someone to want to buy something and they see it. What are the questions they could ask? Have those answers there on my website, really clear and simple. So then they can just decide, yes, add to cart and buy. With that, I think I'm just gonna leave it here. I hope you've really enjoyed watching me bring this product to life and seeing all the steps of the process. Hopefully it's interesting and you've learned something from it or understand a little bit more about my process. Let me know if there's anything you would like to see in the future, other things that I make that you want to see a bit more behind the scenes on. I want to do a few more of these for a few other projects that I've got in the making. Say hello to me on Instagram or in the comments below, and otherwise I'll just see you in the next video. All right, love you all. Mwah. Bye. Bye, bye, bye.